You know what's fascinating about advanced civilizations? They love their hierarchies almost as much as they love pretending those hierarchies make perfect sense. Take the hegemony of ascended races, for instance. 12,000 years of galactic governance built on the revolutionary concept that some species are simply better than others. Groundbreaking stuff, really. The hegemony's ranking system reads like someone's fever dream of cosmic snobbery. At the apex sit the Zephyrians, crystalline beings who abandoned physical bodies eons ago and now exist as pure harmonic frequencies. They communicate through musical tones that allegedly contain layers of meaning beyond primitive comprehension. Translation. They hum pretentiously and everyone pretends it's profound. Below them, the Korvathi flex their 6 arms and 3 different weapon appendages, having earned their spot through what they call disciplined martial evolution. They're basically the galaxy's hall monitors, if hall monitors could vaporize you for talking back. Then you have the Netherians with their collective consciousness, the Vorthan with their time manipulation abilities, and about 40 other species arranged in descending order of evolutionary sophistication. A term the hegemony throws around like it means something concrete rather than things we've decided are impressive. And at the very bottom, the newest additions, the probationary primitives who barely qualified for membership. Species that still use individual names instead of harmonic designations. Civilizations that haven't transcended physical existence. Races that, brace yourself, still experience emotions as separate individuals rather than collective enlightenment. Humans, in other words. The Grand Ceremonial Chamber aboard the Hegemony flagship Eternal Resonance was designed specifically to make newcomers feel appropriately insignificant. Crystalline walls stretched up into infinity, pulsing with the harmonic frequencies of Zephyrian thought songs. Gravity fields adjusted to make every step feel labored. The air itself hummed with what the Zephyrians called elevating vibrations, but what most species experienced as a mild headache. Ambassador Marcus Thorne stepped into this monument to cosmic arrogance wearing a simple black suit and the kind of expression that suggested he found the whole thing mildly entertaining. Not the reaction the chamber was designed to evoke, but then again, humans had a habit of responding to things in ways that didn't quite fit the galactic playbook. Marcus was an interesting choice for humanity's first formal ambassador. Career diplomat, certainly, but with a background in theoretical physics and what his file diplomatically termed unconventional problem-solving approaches. He'd spent the journey to the Hegemony flagship reading their cultural briefings, with the sort of attention most people reserve for comedy shows. The ritual of acknowledged inferiority was scheduled to begin in precisely 17 minutes, Galactic Standard Time. This ceremony would determine humanity's official position in the cosmic hierarchy for the next 1,000 years. A time frame that seemed reasonable to species who measured their lives in centuries but struck humans as optimistically permanent. Representatives from the 47 member species had gathered to witness the proceedings, not out of particular interest in humanity, mind you, but because watching new species grovel was apparently quality entertainment when you transcended most other forms of amusement. The ritual itself was a masterpiece of bureaucratic humiliation refined over millennia. Each new species would be presented with a series of increasingly degrading requirements designed to demonstrate their acceptance of inferior status. Prostration before superior beings, recitation of their species' inadequacies, symbolic offerings of their homeworld's soil to show submission. Most species found the experience traumatic. The Yelani ambassador had reportedly wept crystalline tears during their ceremony 3 centuries ago. The Corvin delegation had required medical intervention after their representative collapsed from stress-induced molting. Marcus, however, seemed to be treating the whole affair like an anthropological field study. He'd been taking notes, actual, physical notes with a pen and paper, which had already scandalized several energy-based life forms who considered physical writing tools barbarically primitive. The chamber's harmonic frequencies shifted, indicating the ceremony was about to begin. Across the galaxy, this moment would be recorded in the Hegemony archives as humanity's formal acceptance of their place in the cosmic order. History, as it turned out, was about to get significantly more interesting. The Hegemony certainly knew how to put on a show. As the ceremony commenced, holographic displays materialized throughout the chamber, broadcasting the proceedings to every member world simultaneously. Because apparently, when you're going to humiliate a species, you might as well do it with proper production values. High-resonance Veltar manifested at the chamber's center, a shifting geometric pattern of crystalline light that pulsed with harmonic authority. When Zephyrians spoke, reality itself seemed to vibrate with their words, a neat trick that never failed to impress the newer species. We gather to witness the ritual of acknowledged inferiority, Veltar intoned, each word creating visible ripples in the air. The species known as humans will now demonstrate their understanding of cosmic hierarchy. War Marshal Krexnos materialized beside the high resonance, 6 arms crossed in what passed for dignified posture among the Korvathi. His species had perfected the art of looking intimidating while standing perfectly still. 3 eyes, metallic skin, and enough weaponry integrated into their biology to level a small city. Ambassador of the human primitives, he announced, his voice carrying the sort of authority that suggested disagreement might result in immediate disintegration. You will approach and assume the position of submission. Marcus walked forward with the casual stride of someone heading to a coffee shop rather than a cosmic tribunal. He stopped at the designated spot, a circle of crystalline light that was supposed to make supplicants feel exposed and vulnerable, and waited with his hands clasped behind his back. You will now prostrate yourself before the assembled representatives of superior civilizations, Veltar commanded, harmonics building to emphasize the gravity of the moment. Marcus tilted his head slightly, as if considering the request. I'm good, thanks. The chamber fell silent except for the background hum of Zephyrian thought songs, which seemed to stutter in confusion. Several energy-based beings flickered uncertainly. This wasn't how the script was supposed to go. Krexnos stepped forward, his integrated weapon systems beginning to glow with threatening energy. Perhaps the primitive did not understand. You will kneel before your superiors and acknowledge your species' inferiority. Oh, I understood perfectly, Marcus replied, pulling out his notebook and flipping to a fresh page. I'm just not going to do it. Please continue. This is fascinating from an anthropological perspective. The War Marshal's 3 eyes narrowed in what could charitably be called disbelief. In 12,000 years of hegemony history, no species had ever simply refused to participate in the ritual. There were protocols for resistance, fear, anger, desperate bargaining, but casual dismissal wasn't in the playbook. You dare mock this sacred ceremony? Veltar's harmonics shifted into frequencies that had been known to shatter the resolve of entire civilizations. Your primitive species depends on our acceptance for survival in this galaxy. Marcus made another note. Sacred ceremony involving ritualized humiliation. Interesting psychological framework. Tell me, how exactly does making people grovel contribute to galactic governance? I'm genuinely curious about the efficiency metrics here. The assembled representatives began murmuring among themselves, or whatever passed for murmuring among species that communicated through telepathy, harmonic frequencies, and controlled electromagnetic pulses. This was unprecedented. New species were supposed to be terrified, not conducting interviews. Krexnos activated his primary weapon array, bathing the chamber in menacing red light. Your insolence will not be tolerated. Submit or face the consequences of defying the hegemony's authority. Consequences, Marcus repeated, writing that down too. Could you be more specific? Are we talking economic sanctions, military intervention, strongly worded diplomatic protests? I want to make sure I'm accurately representing your position in my report. Your report? Veltar's crystalline form pulsed with what might have been confusion or rage. It was hard to tell with energy beings. You are here to submit to our authority, not file reports? Marcus looked up from his notebook with the expression of someone who just heard something particularly amusing. See, that's where I think there might have been a miscommunication. We're not here to submit to anything. I'm here to deliver humanity's response to your invitation. The chamber's harmonic frequencies shifted into discordant patterns as the assembled representatives processed this statement. Several species began rapid consultations with their homeworlds. This wasn't just unprecedented, it was impossible. No probationary primitive species had the power to refuse hegemony authority. "You will kneel," Krexnos commanded, his voice carrying the full weight of 12 millennia of unquestioned authority, "or your species will face annihilation." Marcus closed his notebook with a soft snap and looked up at the war marshal with the sort of smile that should have been reassuring, but somehow wasn't. "You know what? I think it's time we had a proper conversation about humanity's actual position in this galaxy. You might want to sit down for this. Well, those of you who have the necessary anatomy anyway." The chamber fell completely silent, even the background hum of Zephyrian thought songs fading to nothing. In that moment of perfect quiet, Ambassador Marcus Thorne began to speak, and the galaxy's understanding of cosmic hierarchy began to crumble. Marcus straightened his tie, a gesture that somehow managed to look both casual and ominous, and began speaking in the tone of a professor delivering a lecture to particularly slow students. "Let me start with a simple question," he said, addressing the assembled representatives as if they were colleagues rather than his supposed superiors. "How many of you actually believe your own intelligence reports about humanity?" Veltar's crystalline form flickered with uncertainty. "What are you implying, primitive?" "Well, according to your files, we're a species that barely achieved faster-than-light travel 50 years ago. We use crude digital technology instead of quantum consciousness networks. We haven't transcended physical existence or achieved collective enlightenment." Marcus paused, letting that sink in. "The question is, did it never occur to any of you to wonder how such a primitive species managed to reverse engineer your hyperspace beacon technology in 6 months?" The chamber's harmonic frequencies shifted into distinctly uncomfortable ranges. Several representatives began urgent communications with their intelligence services. "Oh, that's just the beginning," Marcus continued, warming to his subject. "See, we've been monitoring your communications for about 15 years now. Your unbreakable quantum encryption? We cracked it on a Tuesday. Took our graduate students 3 hours. They thought it was a homework assignment. Krexnos' weapon systems powered up to full charge. Impossible. Our security protocols are designed by species who think in terms of millennia instead of decades," Marcus interrupted. "You've been using the same basic cryptographic principles for 3,000 years. We've been iterating our technology every 18 months. Do the math." He pulled out what looked like a standard human tablet, the kind of device the hegemony classified as quaint primitive technology, and began reading from it as if it were a grocery list. "War Marshal Krexnos, your fleet positions, 47 dreadnoughts in the Kepler Nebula, 15 battle groups protecting the Zephyrian home system, and, oh, this is interesting, a secret weapons facility in the Andromeda Relay that's supposed to be completely off the books." Marcus looked up with genuine curiosity. "By the way, what exactly are you planning to do with those reality-warping torpedoes? They seem a bit excessive for maintaining galactic peace." The war marshal's 3 eyes went wide with something approaching panic. "How could you possibly know about your classified military assets?" "Well, that brings us to the really fun part." Marcus's smile took on a distinctly predatory quality. "You see, we haven't just been watching you, we've been studying you. 12,000 years of galactic civilization, and you've created what is essentially a cosmic feudal system with better special effects." He gestured to the assembled representatives with the casual air of someone pointing out interesting architecture. "The Netherians with their collective consciousness? Fascinating from a neurological perspective, but it makes you incredibly vulnerable to coordinated psychological manipulation. The Vorthon time manipulation abilities? Impressive, but you're still bound by causality loops that we mapped out decades ago." Veltar's harmonic frequencies reached pitches that had never been recorded in Zephyrian history. "You dare claim superiority over beings who transcended physical existence before your species discovered fire?" "Transcended physical existence," Marcus repeated thoughtfully. "Is that what you call it? Because from our perspective, you've locked yourselves into energy patterns that are actually less flexible than biological systems. You can't adapt, can't evolve, can't even change your fundamental nature without risking dissolution." He tapped his tablet, and suddenly every screen in the chamber displayed detailed schematics of Zephyrian energy matrices. We've been running simulations of your consciousness patterns for 8 years. Want to know something interesting? We can predict your decisions with 97% accuracy. All of you. Your transcendent wisdom follows algorithms that our computers solve before breakfast. The chamber erupted in chaos as representatives frantically attempted to contact their homeworlds, only to discover that their communications were being politely but firmly intercepted by systems they couldn't detect, much less counter. Here's the thing about humans, Marcus said, raising his voice just enough to cut through the panic. We're not particularly advanced by your standards. We don't live for millennia. We haven't transcended physical existence, and we definitely haven't achieved cosmic enlightenment. But we have one advantage that none of you considered. He paused, letting the silence stretch until every being in the chamber was focused on his next words. We're still evolving. While you've been perfecting the same technologies and social structures for thousands of years, we've been changing, adapting, improving everything we touch. Your primitive internet that you're so dismissive of, it processes more information in a single day than your entire hegemony database contains. Our crude artificial intelligence systems have been quietly optimizing galactic trade routes for the past 5 years, increasing efficiency by 40%. You never noticed because you assumed primitives couldn't possibly improve on perfection. Marcus closed his tablet and looked around the chamber with the expression of someone who just finished explaining basic arithmetic to a room full of confused children. So here's humanity's response to your invitation to join the hegemony as probationary primitives. Thanks, but we'll pass. We've got a better idea. The immediate aftermath of Marcus's little speech resembled nothing so much as a cosmic-scale panic attack. Veltar's crystalline form flickered through frequencies that hadn't been seen since the Zephyrian civil wars, while Krexnos frantically attempted to contact his fleet commanders, only to discover that his communications were being routed through what appeared to be a human customer service system, complete with hold music. The verification process that followed was both swift and devastating. Every claim Marcus had made checked out with the sort of thoroughness that suggested humans had been preparing for this moment for quite some time. The secret weapons facilities, the intercepted communications, the detailed psychological profiles, all of it real, all of it documented, and all of it completely impossible according to everything the hegemony thought they knew about primitive species. The Korvathi War Council's emergency session lasted 14 minutes before they formally requested a strategic partnership with humanity. The Zephyrian High Resonance took slightly longer, nearly an hour, before acknowledging that perhaps their understanding of cosmic hierarchy needed minor adjustments. 6 months later, the galaxy looked remarkably different. The hegemony still existed technically, but it now operated under what humans diplomatically termed efficiency guidelines. Turns out that when you optimize a 12,000-year-old bureaucracy using modern management principles, you can accomplish the same governance task with about 90% fewer ceremonial humiliation rituals. Ambassador Marcus Thorne, now Director of Interspecies Relations, maintained his office aboard the former Hegemony flagship, which had been renamed the Collaborative Endeavor, in a gesture that everyone pretended was voluntary. His daily schedule included briefings from former superior species who were eager to learn about human innovations in everything from faster-than-light communication to efficient resource distribution. The grand ceremonial chamber had been converted into a conference room with comfortable seating and adequate lighting. The ritual of acknowledged inferiority had been replaced with what humans called productive introductory meetings, which somehow managed to accomplish actual diplomatic goals without requiring anyone to grovel. War Marshal Krexnos, now bearing the slightly less intimidating title of Security Coordination Specialist, spent his days learning about human conflict resolution techniques. It turned out that most galactic disputes could be resolved through what humans called basic communication skills, rather than the traditional method of threatening to vaporize everyone involved. High-resonance Veltar had adapted to the new order with the philosophical flexibility that came from being an energy being who'd already transcended physical existence once. The Zephyrians now served as the galaxy's primary cultural preservation society, documenting the rich history of species who'd been too busy maintaining hierarchies to properly record their own achievements. The most dramatic change, however, was in the hegemony's new ranking system. Species were now classified not by evolutionary sophistication, but by collaborative contribution, a metric that measured how effectively each civilization could work with others to solve practical problems. The results had been illuminating. The Yelani, previously ranked near the bottom for their primitive emotional responses, turned out to be exceptional mediators. The Corvin, whose stress-induced molting had been seen as a sign of weakness, proved to have an intuitive understanding of resource management that revolutionized galactic supply chains. Even the species that still used combustion engines found themselves valued for their practical engineering approaches and innovative problem-solving methods. On this particular morning, Marcus was reviewing applications for the new Galactic Innovation Council when his assistant, a former Hegemony Protocol officer who'd adapted to human efficiency standards with remarkable enthusiasm, announced his next appointments. Director, High Resonance Veltar and War Marshal Krexnos are here for their scheduled consultation on the Outer Rim Development Project. Marcus looked up from his tablet, the same primitive device that had helped dismantle a 12,000-year-old cosmic hierarchy, and smiled. Send them in, and remind them that the meeting should only take about 20 minutes. We've got actual work to accomplish today. As the former rulers of the galaxy filed into his office with the eager deference of junior executives hoping for approval, Marcus reflected on the curious nature of evolution. The hegemony had spent millennia perfecting a system based on the assumption that advancement meant transcending change itself. Humans, it turned out, had a different theory. The moment you stop evolving, something smaller, faster, and more adaptable is going to eat your lunch. The galaxy was still learning that lesson, but they were remarkably quick students when properly motivated.